you want to learn more about the backrooms, but you just don't have the time? Unlike some other people, we understand you're busy, and 3 hours is a long time to sift through videos that you may or may not understand. Well, thanks to the fine people of Radio Research, we present to you our complimentary course, The Backrooms 101. This instructional tape should provide you all the necessary background information for casual conversation with friends and viewing the Backrooms film, coming May 29th. We offer our highly experienced instructors for your learning pleasure, and we hope that
through this course.
The Backrooms film that is releasing by A24 is a version created by Kane Pixels on YouTube. He started this series in 2022 with the video Backrooms Found Footage, and as many people like to point out, he was only 16 at the time, which is very impressive. Now, of course, the Backrooms was already a concept that people were playing with before this point. The Backrooms was actually birthed from this image. It was posted to 4chan, and then the following year it was re-uploaded with the text. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backroom, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet and the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. In Kane's series, the videos are formatted almost like archive footage. The description of the second tape says, compiled on June 91. And at the end of Found Footage 2, we even see that the entire video was from the point of view of a person presumably watching the same tape as us. With this format, we actually get two different points of views, one being the documentation of the researchers discovering the backrooms for themselves, and the other being the found footage format, which are the tapes by people who have unfortunately found themselves stuck in the backrooms. Now, our little story starts off with a company named ASYNC Research, and on May 10th of 1982 at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, they created the first prototype of what will be called the Low Proximity Magnetic Distortion System. Now fast forward to 1988, and they are just oh so close to figuring this thing out. They test the system for a third time, and they refuse to release the information pertaining to the results. Instead, the vice director of ASYNC, Ivan Beck, states in a press conference that if they get the proper backing from the government, they will be able to solve all the spacing and storage issues for the foreseeable future, including residential needs. Research continues, and in October of the following year, they have their first successful test producing a sustained gate to the backrooms. Yay! Now, I need you to remember that the first time they successfully opened the backrooms was in late 1989. I'll come back to that. A lot happened in the 90s for ASYNC, so let's break it down like this. February 2nd, researchers discovered a body, and what was strange about it is that in certain areas, the decaying process seemed to stop, and in other parts, they were completely riddled with a mutated form of Hay bacillus. Now, you don't need to know what that is specifically, just know that it's a benign bacteria that most people have. Later on, the 29th, 3 researchers go out, and one of them disappears. The following month, March 5th, motion detectors are installed as well as cameras, and in it they capture a squiggle? Okay, so 2 more months go by and we're even further into the backrooms than before. Making a medium story short, there's this researcher that should have worn slip-resistant shoes because he takes a tumble down the chimney and he discovers a whole new area. In this new area, he finds Squiggle Man from before, and he's very tall and very scary. So Mr. Slip and Slide finally makes it out. He escapes, thankfully, and in the same day, ASYNC reviews his footage. Now, thankfully, these are scientists we're talking about, so they're at least a little smart, and they decide to pack things up, meaning they block off that whole section of the backrooms and say, we're not touching this. They actually make a little observatory room as well, so they can semi-safely look out into it. And whoa, what do you know? Disappearing Guy from February is back. And this is its own whole mini story of its own, but all you really need to know is that he shows back up on the 8th of May, and he has to stay at the research building because ASYNC doesn't really know what to do with him. And on the 22nd, presumably as an act of desperation, he runs back into the complex, only to be found a few more days later when he shoots one of his fellow researchers and escapes the backrooms as well as the research facility. And that'll lead us into the final video, ASYNC's exploration of the backrooms, which is fairly short and simple. It showcases new areas where the furniture is starting to glitch into the walls and the floors, which is really the first time we get to see anything like it in the series. Alright, now I know that might have been a lot. We went through it really fast. Are you still with me? Okay. Now, remember earlier when I said to remember the first time they successfully opened the backrooms? Well, actually, they give us this chart that shows cases of disappearances all over the US, the world. Actually, I don't know what population this is supposed to be, but we get a disappearing chart, and we'll see that there's a very strong correlation between when they first opened the backrooms and a gigantic spike in when people go missing. Now, you may be wondering why I'm bringing this up here, and it's because it gets us into our next part, the found footage. I think arguably the found footage section of Kane's Backrooms are the most popular and well-known sections from his series, and one thing I've always thought was interesting is that looking at the dates, the found footage tapes are at the very end of the timeline. Ironically, the very first video is the most recent, as it's labeled 1996. If you go to the clapper in the video, it still says 91. Now, found footage 2 is labeled as October 19th of 95, and while we don't get a specific date for the third, we hear a radio broadcast discussing the Oklahoma City bombing, which, if we assume it's within the same year, that would still be 95 as well, along with tape 2.
In the Oklahoma City bomb.
Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail about the found footage tapes, partially because I would prefer you to go see them for yourselves, but also because I don't think there's too much to explain without getting into theory territory. For example, we see this green light. Do we know what it is? Nope. Do we know what it does? Nope. It feels like we see a lot more in these found footage tapes than we in the careful and procedural documentation done by ASYNC, and I think that's on purpose. But I think that's about all the time we have for today's complimentary course. I hope it was helpful and or you enjoyed it. If you would like to dive further into the Backrooms with Backrooms 102 and beyond, make the payment to Radio Cat channel in the form of one like, and make sure to subscribe to their services so you may receive your next course as soon as it's available. If there are any other courses you would like to access, please let us know in the comments section, as well as how you enjoyed today's lesson. Until next time, take care of yourself and others. Bye. They have their first successful product, and in the same day, ASYNC research reviews. Research continues, and in October of the following year, they have their first successful Oh my gosh, this is so hard.